Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he stood outside the colony's main building. The morning air on Kepler 442b felt thick and heavy, nothing like the crisp mornings back on Earth. He looked at the damaged fence for the third time, this week. Something had torn through the metal like it was paper. Lisa Carter walked up beside him, her security badge catching the alien sun's light. She held her scanner in one hand and shook her head. Same marks as before, Jake. Whatever. Did this is big and smart. Really smart. The colony had been on this planet for 8 months now. Earth Command had sent them here to mine the rare metals found deep in the planet's crust. The work was hard, but the pay was good. Most of the colonists had families back home counting on the money they would make here. Now Jake wondered if any of them would live long enough to send that money home. How many animals did we lose this time? Jake asked. 6 cattle and 4 of the mining robots, Lisa said. The thing didn't eat the cattle, it just killed them and left them there. The robots were torn apart, but not randomly. Someone or something knew exactly how to disable them. Dr. Amanda Brooks came running from the medical building. Her lab coat was dirty and her hair was a mess. She had been working all night again, trying to figure out what kind of creature they were dealing with. Jake, Lisa, you need to see this, Amanda said, breathing hard. I found tracks. Real tracks this time. They followed Amanda to the edge of the forest where the trees grew thick and dark. The ground was soft here, and the creature had left clear footprints in the mud. Jake knelt down next to one of the prints and felt his stomach drop. The footprint was as long as his arm and twice as wide as his hand. Deep claw marks showed at the front of each toe. Whatever made this track had to weigh more than a small truck. How tall do you think it is? Lisa asked. Amanda pulled out her measuring tools. Based on the stride length and the depth of the prints, I'd say 12 feet tall, maybe more. And look at this. She pointed to scratches on a nearby tree. These claw marks are 10 feet off the ground. It can reach higher than any of our buildings. Jake stood up and looked into the dark forest. Somewhere in there, something was watching. Them. He could feel it. The colonists had started calling it the Shadow, because no one had seen it clearly. It only came out at night and it moved too fast for their cameras to catch. The Zephyrians are coming today, Jake said. Maybe they'll have some answers. The Zephyrian ship landed 2 hours later. Ambassador Veltar stepped out, followed by 2 guards. The Zephyrians looked like tall, thin humans with blue skin and large black eyes. They had been trading with humans for 5 years now, but Jake still found them hard to read. Administrator Morrison, Veltar said in his strange accent. We came as soon as we received your message. You said you were having problems with local wildlife. Jake led the ambassador and his guards to the damaged fence. He showed them the tracks in the torn metal. Veltar's large eyes grew even wider when he saw the evidence. This is very bad, Veltar said, his voice quiet. Very, very bad. You know what did this? Lisa asked. Veltar nodded slowly. We call them Vorthak. In your language, that means death that hunts. They are the most dangerous predators in this part of the galaxy. Amanda stepped forward. What can you tell us about them? They are ancient. Older than our civilization, older than yours. They are smart like you and me, but they have no mercy, no kindness. They hunt because they enjoy killing. Veltar paused and looked at the forest. 3 colonies have tried to settle on worlds where Vorthak live. All 3 colonies are gone now. Every person dead. Jake felt cold despite the warm air. How do we fight something like that? You don't fight them, Veltar said. You run. We have ships. We can take all your people away from here today. It would be a mercy to leave this world before the killing starts. We can't just leave, Jake said. This colony represents 2 years of work and millions of dollars. Earth Command won't abandon it without a fight. Veltar's guards moved closer to their leader. One of them whispered something in the Zephyrian language. Veltar nodded and turned back to Jake. My guard says the creature was here last night, very close to where we stand now. It was watching us while we talked. Everyone turned to look at the forest. The trees were still and quiet, but Jake felt like invisible eyes were staring at him. His skin crawled with the feeling of being hunted. Ben Torres, the colony's chief engineer, came running from the equipment yard. "Jake, we have a problem. The new defense barriers aren't working. Something got past them last night and destroyed 2 more mining units." "That's impossible," Lisa said. "Those barriers use the latest military technology. Nothing should be able to get through them." Ben shook his head. "The creature didn't break through the barriers. It went around them. Somehow, it figured out exactly where our blind spots were. It's like it studied our defenses and found the weaknesses." Veltar made a sound that might have been a sigh. "This is how Vorthak hunt. They watch, they learn, they plan. Then they strike when you think you are safe." Jake looked at his people. He saw fear in their eyes, but also determination. These were tough people who had left everything behind to build a new life on an alien world. They wouldn't give up easily. "How long do we have?" Jake asked. "The attacks will get worse," Veltar said. "First it kills your animals and destroys your machines. Then it will start hunting your people. Once it tastes human blood, nothing will stop it." Amanda was taking notes on her tablet. "Is there any way to communicate with it?" "You said it was intelligent." "Vorthak do not talk," Veltar said. "They only kill. This one will hunt every human on this planet until none are left alive." The ambassador looked at Jake with what might have been pity. "I will leave my ship here for 3 days. That should be enough time for you to gather your people and your most important equipment. After that, we must go. I will not risk my crew for humans who choose to stay and die." As the Zephyrians walked back to their ship, Jake gathered his senior staff. Lisa, Amanda, and Ben stood with him as they watched the alien forest. "So what do we do?" Ben asked. Jake was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice firm and steady. "We prepare for war." That night, as the colonists reinforced their defenses and checked their weapons, something moved in the shadows beyond their lights. Yellow eyes watched the humans work, studying their movements, learning their patterns. The hunt was about to begin. 3 days had passed since the Zephyrian warning. The colonists worked around the clock to strengthen their defenses, but everyone knew they were just buying time. The creature had attacked twice more, each time getting closer to the main settlement. "Jake." Morrison checked his watch as he loaded supplies into the transport vehicle. His 10-year-old son Sam sat in the passenger seat, excited about the trip to the outer mining station. Jake had promised to show him how the big drilling machines worked. "Dad, do you think we'll see the shadow?" Sam asked, pressing his face against the window. "I hope not, son," Jake said, starting the engine. "And if we do see anything strange, you stay close to me. Promise?" "I promise," Sam said, but his eyes still searched the forest as they drove. The road to Mining Station 7 wound through thick, alien trees. The plants here grew in strange shapes with purple leaves and silver bark that seemed to glow in the dim light. Sam had always loved these trips into the wilderness, even though his father worried about the dangers. Halfway to their destination, the transport vehicle made a grinding noise and stopped. Jake tried to restart it, but nothing happened. Steam rose from under the hood. "Looks like we're walking back," Jake said, reaching for his radio. But when he tried to call the colony, he got only static. The thick forest blocked their signal. Jake gathered the emergency supplies from the back of the vehicle. He handed Sam a small backpack with food, water, and a first aid kit. "Stay right behind me," he told his son. "Don't wander off for any reason." They had walked for about an hour when Jake realized they were lost. The forest all looked the same, and the path they had been following seemed to disappear. He stopped to check his compass, trying to figure out which direction would take them home. "Dad, I need to use the bathroom," Sam said. Jake looked around. The forest was quiet except for the sound of wind in the strange trees. "Okay, but don't go far. Stay where I can see you." Sam walked behind a large tree with purple flowers growing on its trunk. Jake kept watching the area where his son had gone, but after a few minutes, he heard Sam calling from much farther away. "Dad, come see this. There's a big cave over here." Jake felt panic rise in his chest. He ran toward the sound of Sam's voice crashing through bushes and jumping over fallen logs. "Sam, come back here right now." But when Jake reached the spot where the voice had come from, Sam was nowhere to be seen. He called his son's name over and over, but only heard his own echo coming back from the dark forest. Sam had found more than just a cave. As he explored the rocky area, he heard a sound like someone moaning in pain. The sound came from behind a pile of fallen rocks near the cave entrance. Sam knew he should go back to his father, but the sound made him think of a hurt animal. Sam climbed over the rocks and found something that should have terrified him. A massive creature lay trapped under a fallen tree. The creature was bigger than anything Sam had ever seen, with dark scales covering its body and claws as long as kitchen knives, but Sam didn't see a monster. He saw an animal in pain. The creature's yellow eyes opened when Sam approached. It tried to move but couldn't lift the heavy tree that pinned its back leg. Blood seeped from wounds on its side where sharp rocks had cut through the scales. "Hey, there, big guy," Sam said softly, the way his mother had taught him to talk to scared animals back on Earth. "You're hurt pretty bad, aren't you?" The creature, whose name was Crix in its own language, had never experienced anything like this. In all its years of hunting, prey had always run away or tried to fight. This small human was doing neither. Instead, it was making gentle sounds and moving slowly, like it didn't want to cause fear. Sam opened his emergency kit and pulled out the bandages Dr. Brooks had taught all the children to use. "I'm going to help you, okay? But you have to promise not to bite me." Crix watched in amazement as the tiny human cleaned its wounds with antiseptic and wrapped them with white cloth. The small creature's hands were gentle, and it kept making soothing sounds. When Sam offered water from his bottle, Crix drank gratefully. "We need to get this tree off you," Sam said, studying the problem. He found a long branch and used it as a lever, just like his father had shown him when they moved heavy rocks in their garden. With effort, he managed to lift the tree enough for Crix to pull free. Crix stood slowly, testing its injured leg. The pain was still there, but it could walk. The creature looked down at the small human who had helped it. In its long life, Crix had killed many creatures, but it had never felt anything like the strange warmth it felt now. Sam sat down next to a large rock and opened his food pack. He pulled out a sandwich and offered half to the massive creature. "Are you hungry? It's just peanut butter and jelly, but it's pretty good." Crix sniffed the strange food and took a small bite. It tasted nothing like the meat it usually ate, but somehow it was pleasant. More importantly, this small human was sharing its food, something Crix had never seen any creature do with a potential enemy. Meanwhile, Jake had organized a search party from the colony. Lisa Carter led a team of security personnel through the forest, all of them armed and ready for the worst. They expected to find Sam's body, torn apart by the creature that had been hunting them. "Over here," one of the searchers called. "I found something." The team rushed toward the voice, weapons ready. But when they reached the source of the call, they found something none of them could have imagined. Sam Morrison sat calmly on a rock, sharing his lunch with a 12-foot-tall predator. The massive creature lay beside him like a giant dog, its head resting near Sam's feet. When it saw the approaching humans, it raised its head but made no move to attack. "Sam!" Jake called out, his voice filled with relief and terror. "Get away from that thing." "It's okay, Dad," Sam said, patting the creature's armored head. "His name is Crix, and he was hurt. I helped him, and now we're friends." The security team raised their weapons, but Lisa held up her hand to stop them. Something was wrong with this picture. The creature that had been terrorizing their colony was lying peacefully next to a 10-year-old boy. Dr. Amanda Brooks arrived with the second search team. She pulled out her camera and began recording everything she saw. "This is impossible," she whispered. "Vorthak don't behave this way." Jake took a careful step forward. "Sam, I need you to come over here, very slowly." "But Dad, Crix is hurt. We can't just leave him here." The creature Crix looked at Jake with intelligent eyes. It made no threatening moves, even though it could have killed everyone there in seconds. Instead, it seemed to be watching Sam, as if the boy was the most important thing in its world. "Dr. Brooks," Lisa said quietly, "what exactly are we looking At here, Amanda kept filming as she spoke. I think we're seeing first contact between a human and a Vorthak that doesn't want to kill us. This changes everything we thought we knew about these creatures. Sam stood up and walked toward his father, and the massive creature followed him step by step. When Sam stopped, Crix stopped. When Sam sat down, Crix lay down beside him. I think he wants to come home with us, Sam said, looking up at his father with hopeful eyes. Jake Morrison looked at his son, then at the deadly predator that was acting like a pet dog. He thought about the attacks on the colony, the warnings from the Zephyrians, and the impossible scene playing out in front of him. This is going to be really hard to explain, he said. The walk back to the colony was the strangest parade Jake Morrison had ever seen. Sam walked in front, talking to Crix like they were old friends. The massive creature followed behind him, careful to match the boys' slow pace. The security team spread out on both sides, their weapons ready but not aimed. Dad, did you know Crix can understand what we're saying? Sam said, looking back over his shoulder. Watch this. Crix, sit. The 12-foot predator lowered itself to the ground with surprising grace. The security team jumped back, but Crix just looked at Sam and made a low rumbling sound that almost seemed like purring. Dr. Amanda Brooks walked beside Jake, recording everything with her camera. The language processing alone is remarkable, she whispered. It learned the command in less than an hour. As they approached the colony's outer fence, other colonists came running to see what was happening. Children pressed against the windows of the school building while their teacher, Mary Johnson, tried to keep them inside. Workers dropped their tools and stared as the impossible group walked through the main gate. Ambassador Veltar came rushing from his ship with his 2 guards behind him. When he saw Crix walking calmly beside Sam, he stopped so suddenly that his guards bumped into him. This cannot be, Veltar said in his strange accent. Vorthak do not follow. They do not obey. They only kill. Well, this one seems different, Jake said, watching as Sam showed Crix where to sit outside the main building. Veltar pulled out a communication device and spoke rapidly in the Zephyrian language. Jake caught a few words he recognized, but most of the conversation was too fast to follow. When Veltar finished talking, he looked at the humans with something that might have been fear. I have reported this to the Zephyrian High Command, he said. They do not believe me. A tame Vorthak is impossible according to all our science. Lisa Carter stood with her security team, trying to decide what to do. Half her people wanted to shoot the creature before it could turn violent. The other half were fascinated by what they were seeing. We can't just let this thing wander around the colony, Lisa said to Jake. What if it decides Sam isn't interesting anymore? What if it goes back to hunting us? Before Jake could answer, alarms started blaring from the perimeter sensors. Red lights flashed as the colony's defense system detected incoming aircraft. 3 ships appeared on the horizon, flying fast and low. Raiders, Lisa said, checking her scanner. The Crimson Fleet. They must have heard about our mining operation. The Crimson Fleet was a group of pirates who attacked remote colonies, stealing everything they could carry and often killing everyone they found. Jake had hoped their location was too secret for the raiders to find, but somehow they had tracked the colony down. All civilians to the bunkers, Jake ordered over the colony's speaker system. Security teams to defensive positions. Sam looked up at his father with worried eyes. What's happening, Dad? Bad people are coming, son. You need to get to the safe room with the other children. But as Jake spoke, the first raider ship opened fire on the colony's power station. Explosions lit up the afternoon sky as the building burst into flames. The colony's shields flickered and died. Mary Johnson came running from the school building with 15 children behind her. The bunker door is jammed, she called to Jake. We can't get the children to safety. The raider ships circled overhead, like hungry birds. Jake could see their weapons charging for another attack. His security team had good training, but they were outnumbered 3-1. The colony's defenses were designed to keep out wild animals, not armed spacecraft. That's when Crix stood up. The massive creature had been watching the sky with growing agitation when the raiders fired their second volley at the colony's water treatment plant. Something changed in Crix's yellow eyes. The gentle giant that had been following Sam around suddenly became the apex predator, that had terrorized 3 star systems. Crix let out a roar that shook the ground and made the attacking ships wobble in the air. Then he did something that left everyone speechless. He jumped. Not a small jump. Crix leaped 50 feet into the air, his powerful legs launching him like a missile toward the nearest raider ship. His claws extended as he slammed into the aircraft's hull, tearing through the metal like it was made of paper. The ship spun out of control and crashed into the forest, exploding in a ball of orange flame. The other 2 raider ships tried to retreat, but Crix was already moving toward them. The creature ran faster than Jake had thought possible, covering ground in huge bounds that carried him hundreds of yards with each leap. When the second ship tried to land and unload its troops, Crix was waiting for them. The raiders who survived the encounter would later tell stories of a monster that moved like lightning and fought like a demon, but the colonists saw something different. They saw Crix carefully avoiding any area where humans might be hiding. They saw him disable the raiders' weapons without killing anyone unnecessarily. They saw a protector, not a mindless killer. The entire battle lasted less than 10 minutes. When it was over, 3 raider ships were destroyed, and their crews were either dead or running through the forest. The colony had suffered some damage, but no colonists were hurt. Crix walked back to where Sam was standing with the other children. The boy reached up and patted the creature's massive head, and Crix made that rumbling purr sound again. "Good boy, Crix," Sam said. "You protected everyone." Ambassador Veltar stared at the scene with his large black eyes. He pulled out his communication device again and spoke even more rapidly than before. This time Jake heard him repeat the same phrase several times, something that sounded like impossible in the Zephyrian language. Dr. Brooks was recording everything, her hands shaking with excitement. "This changes everything we know about Vorthak. Behavior," she said. "They're not just intelligent predators. They're capable of loyalty, of choosing who to protect and who to fight." Lisa Carter lowered her weapon and shook her head. "I've seen military units that couldn't coordinate an attack that well. That thing took out 3 armed ships without breaking a sweat." The other children in the colony had lost their fear of Crix during the battle. They came forward slowly, and the massive creature lowered itself to the ground so they could reach him better. Mary Johnson watched in amazement as her students petted the galaxy's most feared predator like he was a friendly dog. "Can he stay with us?" asked Katie White, a 7-year-old girl with red hair. "Please? He saved everyone." Jake looked at his son, who was grinning from ear to ear. Then he looked at Ambassador Veltar, who was still talking rapidly on his communication device. Finally, he looked at Crix, who seemed to be waiting patiently for an answer to the little girl's question. "I think he's already decided to stay," Jake said. That evening, Jake sat in his office trying to write a report to Earth Command. How do you explain that your biggest threat has become your best defense? How do you tell your superiors that a 10-year-old boy has solved a problem that stumped military strategists and alien ambassadors? Outside his window, he could see Sam teaching Crix how to play fetch with a ball. The massive creature was being very careful not to use too much strength, gently tossing the ball back to the boy with just the tip of one claw. Jake started typing. Colony status report, day 127. The local predator situation has been resolved through diplomatic means, requesting guidance on proper protocols for interspecies cooperation. He stared at the words for a long time, then deleted them and started over. Some things were just too strange to explain in an official report. 2 weeks after the Raider attack, a massive Zephyrian research ship appeared in the sky above Kepler 442b. The vessel was 3 times larger than Ambassador Veltar's transport, with gleaming silver hull and strange blue lights running along its sides. Commander Zaylock stepped out of the landing shuttle, followed by a team of scientists carrying equipment Jake had never seen before. The commander was older than Veltar, with darker blue skin and scars across his face that spoke of many dangerous missions. "I have studied Vorthak for 40 years, Commander Zaylock announced to the gathered colonists. "I have seen them destroy entire worlds. I have watched them hunt my people across 3 star systems. What you claim is happening here goes against everything we know about these creatures." Jake Morrison stood beside Sam and Crix outside the colony's main building. The massive creature had grown more comfortable around humans over the past weeks, but he still stayed close to Sam whenever strangers arrived. "See for yourself," Jake said, gesturing toward his son and the gentle giant beside him. Commander Zaylock approached slowly, his scientific instruments beeping and flashing. Crix watched the alien with curious eyes but made no threatening moves. When Sam whispered something to the creature, Crix actually lay down and rolled onto his back, exposing his armored belly in a gesture of complete trust. "Remarkable," Commander Zaylock said, running his scanner over Crix's relaxed form. "His stress levels are almost zero. His brain activity shows patterns I have never recorded in a wild Vorthak." Dr. Amanda Brooks joined the examination, sharing her own data from weeks of observation. "We've documented behaviors that don't appear in any of the existing literature about Vorthak. He helps with construction projects, warns us about dangerous weather, and even plays games with the children." Commander, Zaylock spent the next 3 days studying Crix and his interactions with the colonists. He recorded hours of video, took tissue samples, and ran tests that measured everything from brain waves to hormone levels. What he found changed his understanding of an entire species. "We were wrong," Commander Zaylock announced at a meeting of all the colony's senior staff. "For centuries we have misunderstood what we were seeing." Ambassador Veltar shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "What do you mean, Commander?" "Vorthak are not solitary predators," Commander Zaylock said, displaying holographic images on his portable projector. "They are pack animals, social creatures who form complex family groups. When we encounter them alone on different worlds, we are seeing individuals who have lost their pack, their family, their entire social structure." Dr. Brooks leaned forward with interest. "So the aggressive behavior we've documented is actually a response to isolation?" "Exactly," Commander Zaylock said. "Imagine a human child separated from all other humans, raised alone in the wilderness. What kind of adult would that child become? Frightened, aggressive, unable to trust or form bonds with others?" Jake thought about Sam, and how naturally he had approached Crix with kindness instead of fear. So when Sam helped Crix, he was filling a need that had been empty for years. More than that, Commander Zaylock said, the boy's simple act of compassion awakened social instincts that Crix thought were dead. For the first time in decades, Crix had a pack again, a family to protect and care for. The revelation spread quickly through the colony. Ryan Davis, the chief mechanic, had been working with Crix on construction projects and had noticed the creature's remarkable intelligence and problem-solving abilities. He figured out how to operate the mining equipment in one day, Ryan told the assembled group. Not just the simple stuff either. Complex drilling patterns, load calculations, safety protocols. It's like he understands the engineering principles behind everything we do. Mary Johnson, the school teacher, raised her hand. The children have been teaching him words and basic math. He can count to 103 different languages now, and he recognizes written symbols. Commander Zaylock nodded as he heard each new piece of evidence. Vorthak intelligence was never properly studied because we were always fighting them or running from them. We never tried to communicate or understand their capabilities. Word of the discovery reached other colonies through the Zephyrian communication networks. Within days, Jake started receiving desperate messages from settlements across the galaxy. The first message came from New Horizon Colony on Proxima 7. "We have a Vorthak problem," their administrator wrote. 3 people dead, all our livestock killed. Can you send help? The second message arrived from Mining Station Beta on the moons of Kepler 186. "The creature has been stalking our perimeter for weeks. We're running out of food and ammunition. How did you tame yours?" More messages followed, each one telling the same story of terror and desperation. Jake realized that Sam's simple act of kindness might be the key to saving thousands of lives across the galaxy. Dr. Brooks and Commander Zaylock worked together to develop what they called the Compassionate Contact Protocol. The basic rules were simple but went against every instinct that most species had when facing a dangerous predator. First, approach without weapons, Dr. Brooks explained to Jake as they prepared the protocol document. The Vorthak can sense hostile intent from great distances. Second, bring food and medical supplies as gifts. Third, move slowly, and speak softly. Fourth, never show fear or aggression, even if the creature displays threatening behavior initially. It sounds dangerous, Jake said. It is dangerous, Commander Jaylock admitted, but not as dangerous as fighting them. We estimate that following this protocol has a 60% success rate based on our observations here. Jake thought about those odds. 60% was better than the 0% survival rate that colonies usually had when facing a Vorthak attack. Sam had been listening to the adult conversation from his spot next to Crix. It's not that hard, the boy said. You just have to be nice to them. Crix was hurt and scared, so I helped him. Now he's my friend. The adults looked at the 10-year-old boy who had accidentally become the galaxy's leading expert on Vorthak psychology. His simple explanation made more sense than all their scientific theories. Commander Zaylock began preparing his report for the Zephyrian High Command. Ambassador Veltar would carry copies to every major government in the known galaxy. The Galactic Council would need to revise centuries of policy regarding Vorthak encounters. But Jake was more interested in the immediate practical applications. 3 more colonies had sent distress calls in the past hour. People were dying while diplomats and scientists debated policy changes. Sam, Jake said to his son, how would you feel about making a video message? There are other colonies out there with Vorthak problems, and you might be able to help them. Sam looked up at Crix, who seemed to understand the conversation even though he couldn't speak human languages. The massive creature made his gentle purring sound and nuzzled the boy's shoulder. Sure, Dad, Sam said. But I think Crix should be in the video too. People need to see that they're not monsters. They're just lonely. As the sun set over Kepler 442b, Jake watched his son play with a creature that had once terrorized 3 star systems. Tomorrow they would start recording the messages that might change how the galaxy saw one of its most feared predators. The boy and his unlikely friend had already changed everything for the small colony on a distant world. Now, they might change everything for the galaxy itself. 6 months had passed since Sam Morrison first helped an injured Vorthak in the alien forest. The Kepler 442b colony had grown from a struggling mining outpost into the most successful operation in the sector. 3 more Vorthak had joined the community using the protocols Sam and Dr. Brooks had developed. Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the new administration building, watching his son teach a class in the courtyard below. Sam was now 11 years old and had become something no one could have predicted, the galaxy's first interspecies diplomat. Today we're going to learn about pack behavior, Sam said to his audience of 20 young colonists and 5 alien delegates from different worlds. Crix lay beside him, while the other 3 Vorthak sat in a semicircle around the group. The second Vorthak to join them was called Thane, a female who had been terrorizing a farming colony on Kepler 438c. Following Sam's video instructions, 8-year-old Katie White had approached Thane with food and medicine. The process had taken 3 weeks, but eventually Thane had bonded with the human child, just as Crix had bonded with Sam. The third was Drac, an older male who had been the scourge of mining station Omega, until 12-year-old Carl Johnson had spent days sitting outside the creature's cave, reading stories aloud and leaving gifts of earth chocolate. Drac now helped with the colony's heavy construction projects. The 4th Vorthak, named Vera, had arrived just 2 months ago. She had come looking for others of her kind, drawn by signals that the bonded Vorthak had somehow been sending across space. Unlike the others, Vera had approached the colony peacefully, already understanding that humans were different from other species. Ambassador Veltar stood beside Jake on the observation deck, recording everything for his regular reports. To the Zephyrian High Command, the Galactic Council meets next week to vote on the human protocol, he said. Your son's work has changed policies that have been in place for over 300 years. The human protocol? Jake asked. That is what they are calling it, Veltar explained. The official designation for using human civilians as first contact specialists with hostile alien species. 17 colonies have successfully resolved Vorthak conflicts using methods developed here. Jake watched as Sam demonstrated how to approach a Vorthak safely. The boy moved slowly, keeping his hands visible, speaking in calm tones. Crix played the role of an unknown Vorthak, pretending to be suspicious and aggressive at first, then gradually relaxing as Sam showed kindness and offered gifts. "Remember," Sam told his students, "they're not trying to be mean. They're just scared and lonely. If you show them that you want to be friends, they'll usually give you a chance." Dr. Amanda Brooks joined Jake and Veltar on the observation deck. She carried a thick folder full of research papers and reports. "The Xenobiology Conference on Europa Station has requested that Sam give the keynote speech next month," she said. "They want him to explain his theories about interspecies empathy." "He's just a kid," Jake said, though he felt proud of his son's accomplishments. "A kid who has solved problems that stumped our best scientists and military strategists." "Dr. Mean," Brooks replied. "The University of New Geneva wants to offer him an honorary doctorate in xenopsychology." Down in the courtyard, one of the alien delegates raised a tentacle to ask a question. The delegate was from Proxima Station, where another young human had successfully befriended a pack of razor wolves using Sam's methods. "What if the creature doesn't want to be friends?" the delegate asked through its translation device. Sam considered the question seriously. "Then you respect that and leave them alone. Not every animal wants to be a pet, and that's okay. But if they're hurting people, you can still try to talk to them and find out why they're angry." Mary Johnson, now the director of the colony's new interspecies relations school, nodded approvingly. She had watched Sam develop from a curious 10-year-old into a thoughtful teacher who could explain complex ideas in simple terms. "The important thing," Sam continued, "is to remember that most creatures aren't evil. They're just doing what they think they need to do to survive. If you can show them a better way, they'll usually take it." Jake's communication device chimed with an incoming message. The header showed it was from Earth Command, marked with the highest priority codes. Jake opened the message and read it quickly, his eyes widening with each line. "What is it?" Dr. Brooks asked, seeing his expression. "Earth Command wants to establish a new department," Jake said, still reading. "The Department of Interspecies Diplomacy. They want to train human children as contact specialists for dangerous alien encounters." Veltar's large black eyes grew even larger. "They want to use children as diplomats?" "Apparently, children are naturally better at this than adults," Jake said, continuing to read. "Lower fear responses, more intuitive empathy, less preconceived notions about what's possible. They want Sam to head the training program." Dr. Brooks shook her head in amazement. "From a mining colony to the center of galactic diplomacy in 6 months. That has to be some kind of record." In the courtyard below, Sam had finished his lesson and was playing a game of hide-and-seek with the young students and the 4 Vorthak. The massive creatures were trying to hide behind trees that were much too small to conceal them, and the children were giggling as they pretended not to see the obvious hiding spots. Ryan Davis, the chief mechanic, approached the observation deck with a datapad in his hands. "Jake, you need to see the latest production numbers. With the Vorthak helping, we've increased mining output by 400%. The rare metal deposits they've found are worth more than the entire colony's original budget. And the best part," Mary Johnson added, "is that they're teaching us sustainable mining techniques. They understand the planet's geology better than our computers do. We're getting more resources while doing less damage to the environment." Jake looked at the reports and financial projections, but his attention kept returning to the scene in the courtyard. His son was sitting with Crix under a purple-leafed tree, both of them watching the sunset paint the alien sky in shades of orange and gold. 6 months ago, Jake had been preparing to evacuate his failing colony in the face of an unstoppable predator. Now he was running the most successful human settlement outside of Earth's solar system, and his son was being invited to address the greatest scientific minds in the galaxy. "Commander Morrison," came a voice from behind him. Jake turned to see Commander Zaylock approaching with a formal document in his hands. The Zephyrian scientist had been promoted after his groundbreaking research on Vorthak behavior. "The Galactic Council has made their decision," Commander Zaylock announced. "The human protocol has been officially adopted as standard procedure for all first contact situations involving potentially hostile species. Your son's methods will be taught at every diplomatic academy in known space. Jake took the document and read the official seal of the Galactic Council. At the bottom of the page, he saw something that made him smile. The protocol was officially titled the Sam Morrison Compassionate Contact Doctrine. As the alien sun set over Kepler 442b, Jake Morrison reflected on how much had changed. His son had taught the galaxy that what they thought was weakness, human kindness, empathy, and willingness to help, was actually their greatest strength. The predators of the galaxy were no longer humanity's enemies. They were becoming humanity's friends, partners, and protectors. And it had all started with a 10-year-old boy who saw a hurt animal and decided to help. Jake smiled as he watched Sam and Crix walking toward the building together, the boy's small hand resting on the creature's massive arm. Tomorrow there would be new challenges, new species to understand, new friendships to build across the stars. But tonight, Jake Morrison was simply a proud father watching his son change the galaxy, one act of kindness at a time.